Actually have viewers waiting. Interesting. All right. Mhm. You're seeing something you don't normally see, and that's me actually getting set up to do this stuff, in case you're watching live right now. Greetings from Riverton. And we're going to be talking here in just a moment. And the main thing we want to talk about is MD Dkt. Oh, I'm going to screw this up so much over the next few months. MD Dkt, which is the MD stands for, I believe, the Office of the Managing Director. This came out of that office. Docket 20-270, and we'll talk about that and some other whatever other randomness that y'all want to discuss. And stay with me here. I'm putting the post in a few in a few relevant places. And I will discuss some of these issues. And let's see where we can go. Alright, we're just watching a few things out here, and just watching to see what we've got here. Okay, very good. Okay, looks like we do have a couple people logging in, so... Oh. Also, do feel free to jump into the chat window, and we can further talk about various things here, but... what I want to talk about today is, first of all, I want to talk about what's been proposed in MD Dkt. That's the Office of the Managing Director, MD Dkt. Mike Delta Docket 20-270. And with that, I want to clear up some very early misunderstandings that exist right now over the concerns in regards to the amateur radio service. This docket is, this item is the implementation of Section 8 and Section 9 of the Ray Bombs Act. And if you're not familiar with the Ray Bombs Act, this was a piece of legislation that was passed a couple years ago. And it's part of an overall omnibus kind of, appropriations kind of bill. And hidden in there is this Ray Bombs Act. And it really, the overall gist of the act is it's really like an FCC reform kind of legislation where they tackle a whole laundry list of various issues, most of it being telecom, broadband related. That's where a majority of it, because that's where a majority of the money is right now in FCC and in communications regulation in this day and age. One of the things that is in Section 8 of the Ray-Bombs Act basically suggests that the Congress is now expecting the Commission, the FCC, to, they've always been under, for the past 20 years, the FCC has been under a statutory mandate to charge application fees where appropriate. And in the past, they have in various services. However, the FCC has also excluded application fees in other certain licensed services. Under Ray-Bombs, the Act basically states that there needs to be more consistency in the way that application fees are charged, and also too there needs to be some a level of a certain guideline that's followed when setting the rates for these various transactions that take place at the FCC. Now, one of the services that has customarily been excluded from any kind of fee in the past, and I'm talking only about application fees right now, and I'll discuss the difference here in just a moment, because there is a difference between this and regulatory fees. The amateur radio has always been excluded from application fees. Under this implementation of Ray-Bombs, of Section 8 and 9 of Ray-Bombs, actually it's Section 8 only is what this specific docket only deals with Section 8, which is the application fees. In the implementation of Section 8 of Ray-Bombs, the FCC is now looking, they've looked at everything, and now they're saying, okay, there is a cost to the Commission in order to administrate the processing of amateur radio applications. And the Commission feels that fee should be $50. Now, there are some out there that say, well, Congress has specifically excluded amateur radio from fees. That is both correct and incorrect. I'll explain. There are two types of fees that the FCC charges in association with licensees. The one fee is the regulatory fee. Regulatory fees are charged to licensees for the ongoing, to help support the ongoing day-to-day administrative functions of the Federal Communications Commission. Regulatory fees are normally charged on an annual basis, and they can vary based on the service and based on the service, and in some cases including broadcast radio and television, the size of the market that the station can serve. An FM station in a major top 10 market that's a Class B may pay a 5-figure annual fee to just have the privilege of being a commercial radio licensee. Now, I said commercial because non-commercial educational licensees as well as government licensees are not required to pay fees, nor are nonprofit organizations that carry out public services and would otherwise be licensed into Part 90 for public safety radio services, nor would they be subject to any filing fees. I believe we're having some stream issues here. We're going to keep going. So with that, we need to look at the regulatory fees. Regulatory fees are handled out of Section 9 in RABOMS. They're in Section 9 of the RABOMS document, the one that's linked at our website. In Section 9, there is a specific waiver exception for amateur radio in the RABOMS Act, but that only applies to annual regulatory fees. It does not apply to application fees. Now, application fees are the fees that are intended to handle the administrative task of completing a change or other application that is requested by the applicant. And the idea is that if the FCC thinks it's going to cost about $50 for them to process an amateur radio application, just like right now it costs them, they claim it costs about $170 to do a license to cover on an FM translator. They're going to do that. Those are the fees. Those are the fees. Amateur radio, through a lot of good advocacy by the ARRL, likewise, here I am praising the ARRL. I do that sometimes because the ARRL, as long as they get their priorities straight, they do a good job on some things. I mean, I'll be honest, there are some things that the ARRL is off the mark on, but I think that some of these issues, the ARRL, I will give praise to the ARRL when that praise is justified. Let's see if I can try to fix the stream here really quickly here. Try to get their we're going to bring our bit rate down a little bit here. Hopefully that will help fix some of the stalling problems here. But again, regulatory fees are annual fees paid to support day-to-day functions at the FCC. Application fees are charged to effectuate a certain task by the FCC. And, we pay application fees right now in the commercial broadcast services. Now, in Section 8 of RABOMS, where application fees are addressed, the exceptions are only non-commercial educational broadcast stations, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations providing public safety services in Part 90. Those are the exceptions in Section 8, not amateur radio. Amateur radio was not written into Section 8 that deals with application fees. So this is the reason why We are saying that there is a chance that the FCC may impose an application fee in amateur radio. Not saying it's going to happen in the long run, because see, what's going to happen now is the FCC made a decision back on the 12th. Now that decision was leaked out 3 weeks beforehand, and it was an authorized leak. It's what they call a circulation draft. Under the Pai administration, all items that are discussed at the commission open meeting, including those that are tabled and voted on early, get this circulation draft item. It comes out about 3 weeks before, and it basically is the document right now that the commission it's a working document that the commissioners review, and then they can propose changes, and they can recirculate the document with these proposed changes, and if they get enough commissioners to sign on to the proposed changes, then it goes on to the circulation draft. That's how it works. In those first 2 weeks of that 3-week period, people like me can contact FCC decision makers. You know, we normally go through our staff contacts in the commissioner's office, or through the through the bureaus, the media bureau. And what we do, you know, and we can make ex parte presentations during that time, and we can influence change. In the 1 week before the meeting, we can't do that. That's called the sunshine period. It's a cutoff. Nobody can do that. In the public notice, not the public notice, the anti-duplication proceeding that we just had, the NAB came in on the last day before sunshine and asked for some changes, and it drew the ire of Commissioner Rosenworcel and Starks to include FM into the, to repeal the anti-duplication rule for FM as well as AM. And something similar happened here, because, and it was an issue in regards to a telecom issue. There's always been this little Democratic talking point, I'm going to call it that, because it has come from the minority side, that in order to make a complaint against a telecom provider, a consumer has to pay this huge application fee to file a complaint. And the side on the majority says that's only for formal complaints, not for informal complaints, and that the average consumer would file an informal complaint. In this specific issue, I side with the majority. The majority is right on this, because in those telecom complaints that come in, if you come in on the website and make a complaint there, that is an informal complaint. They're still looked at. They're still handled, but there isn't the full process that formal complaints. Formal complaints are for like business to business kind of complaints. For example, issues in regarding like interconnection fees and stuff. You know, you're charging me an unfair rate for me to carry my traffic over your network. Or issues around pole attachments. The city is not giving us the leeway to be able to hook up our wires to the poles. Those are the kinds of issues that go through the telecom formal complaint process. Anyway, we've digressed. Back to the issue with application fees. I see our stream is a little more smoother now. Hopefully it stays that way. So the FCC has proposed this $50 fee for what they call personal radio services, and there's an issue that I have with that, because they use GMRS, the General Mobile Radio Service, as an example, And that is a personal radio service. That is in Part 95. Part 95 of the rules where personal radio services belong. So that would mean personal radio services would include GMRS. It would include CB, good old 11 meters, 10-4, good buddy. Family radio service. There's an auditory assistance device thing in personal radio service, and there's a couple of other services that are under the Part 95 banner. Those are personal radio services. Amateur radio, on the other hand, is Part 97. Amateur radio has existed, amateur radio predates the personal radio services. It predates GMRS, it even predates CB. And it has a special international recognition with the International Telecommunications Union. So yeah, it falls under a different regulatory structure. This brings the question up is whether it is appropriate to bundle Part 95 and Part 97 services into the same rate chart. I personally think that they need to be treated separately. I think there needs to be a separate fee structure for amateur radio than there is instead of bulking it up with GMRS. There needs to be a separate table, so that way it can function independently of full service. GMRS and other personal services. Positions. Let's talk about some positions on the amateur radio side. I do not think that an application fee, to attract new licensees into the hobby is appropriate. What the commission has here with amateur radio is one of the best educational programs out there that supports the radio art. One of the best educational programs out there right now is amateur radio. Amateur radio can be used to advance STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. There's, and then let's not forget the fact that there's still the emergency communications aspect of amateur radio. And to me, if we are now charging $50 to get a new amateur radio license, how many people is that going to drive away? To me, that is a barrier to entry. And then what makes matters even worse is for those who do study further and advance through the system, each license upgrade, $50. You want to go to general? $50. You want to go to extra? $50. They're also looking at, of course, the $50 for vanity call signs, etc. Here's my, but the one thing that they are not asked, they're specifically said in the NPRM that administrative updates, those that are just used to correct your address, change your address if you move or whatever, they won't charge for that. So obviously there is an aspect of these applications where an administrative update would not endure a filing fee. Now keep in mind though, and what they're saying is because it would just flow right through ULS and bang, it's done. But that's not always the case. Certain administrative updates, I believe, do require some handling. For example, a name change. If you got married and you changed your last name, or you're a transgender amateur radio operator and you change your legal name and you What you do is you upload the documentation, you upload your marriage certificate, you upload your name change paperwork. And the FCC has to offline that for a name change, because of a change in the name, because what they don't want to see happen is they don't want to see the license being transferred from one person to the other. So they have to offline those and manually look at those. Well, right now the FCC is proposing no charge to do that. But they will charge you $50 if you want to upgrade from advanced to, even from advanced to extra, from general to extra. They're going to charge you for that under this proposal. Even though, there's a key word here, even though a majority of the applications that are received by the FCC for these types of things, all the applications for new licenses, all the applications for upgrades are received through the volunteer examiner coordinators, through the VECs. Now, with my time in dealing and working with the Laurel VEC, the free VEC, I got some firsthand experience in the processes, and the way it works is that the VECs send a bulk file to the FCC. They send a bulk file, which is basically this pipe delimited file that has all of their updates, all of their requests in there, everything, like all their upgrades, all their new licenses, everything goes in this bulk file. It goes right into ULS, and, unless the individual has like a red light or some other issue, they normally don't get offlined, and they just go right through. They go right through the system. And that's the way it works. Any argument against the fees should point that out. Should point out the fact that the process for doing a license application for new license or modification because of class change, those are normally done through a mostly automated process, and there is no human hand involvement. I believe, but I'm not positive, that there is human hand involvement in vanity call signs. Somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's always been my understanding, is that there is some staff involvement, especially in those cases like if there's multiple applications for one call sign, because there's the whole lottery system and such. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong on that. To me, this is what I could see. First of all, for amateur radio, as we mentioned earlier, they need to move amateur radio into a separate table for because it's not a personal radio service. It's a Part 97 service. That's first argument. Second argument is that there is a public interest in not only recruiting new licensees to the service, but getting existing licensees to upgrade. There is a public interest there. Where there is not a public interest and where the FCC could charge is in the vanity call sign system. You don't need to have a vanity call sign to operate an amateur station. It's just like you don't need a personalized license plate on your car to go down the freeway. Systematic calls are still available. If somebody wants a call sign that is not, a systematic call, if they want a customized call sign, that's no different than a personalized license plate or a personalized phone number. And there should be a premium on that. And it should be a fairly stiff one, too. Because that would help subsidize the service. I'm going to throw a number out there, $200 for a vanity call sign. One-time fee of $200, not up, not, you know, you don't pay that again when you renew. Now, some of you are now going to say, wait, I thought the law did not allow for regulatory fees on vanity call signs. This is not a regulatory fee. A regulatory fee is something that is periodically charged. In the case of vanity call signs, the FCC did it in 10-year increments. That was classified as a regulatory fee, if I remember correctly. What the FCC is now talking about is application fees. Should there be an application fee for a vanity call sign? And I say yes, there should be. As long as the fees for new licenses and class upgrades remain at no charge. It's very important too that if there is a fee, an application fee, that is going to further delay the system. That's going to further delay grants, and actually it's going to possibly cause more manual work in the background. I'll tell you why. Because normally the way fees work in the FCC for application fees, and this is the way it works in broadcast, is you file your application. Your application is put into the system, whether it's into LMS or CDBS, and then it's held. It's held in those systems. And then what happens is, under a separate cover, you have to go into a different system and do what's called a Form 175. And the Form 175 you put on there is you put the code, you put this 3-letter code on there that directs that funding to a certain, what they call a lockbox. And, that's a certain, like, for example, media applications may go to this code, and wireless may go to this code. And then you go through the payment system through the government, pay.gov. And then what will happen is that a process will eventually try to match up the two. So it's a more extensive process. Now, of course, this doesn't, now this also means another added issue that comes into play. The temporary upgrade authority. As you may know, in the amateur service, if you're already a licensee, let's say you're a technician class licensee, you go into a VE session that day, a volunteer examiner session that day, you pass the general, you're now qualified for general, you hold a certificate of successful completion for the general. You are authorized at that point to go on the air and operate under your general privileges, temporary AG. You're allowed to do that. The problem that you're going to run into is, but keep in mind, that's assuming, that is under this assumption now that amateur radio has always been this free upgrade. What's going to happen if there's a fee? Because normally a change is not effectuated until a fee is paid. And that's the way it is in broadcast. The application doesn't even get filed until it's changed. So, what's going to happen in this case? How is this going to work? Are we now going to have the VECs handling $50 payments? Or are we having to have them send all these applications to ULS to have them held for fees, and then it's going to be up to the original applicant to go to their home computer or somewhere and do the 175? How's that going to work? I think there's a lot more logistical issues that's going to cost not just the FCC, but also the VECs a lot more in time, resources, and costs than it would be to give waivers on VEC-handled applications, such as new licenses and upgrades. Now, renewal applications are also on the list. Now, a renewal application is different than a regulatory fee. It is the fee to effectuate the FCC's working of that application. The question is, does that also justify a fee? Now, of course, in the past, you could go down to a VEC and ask for a license renewal, and they will send it through the batch. That's not. How's this going to work if there's a fee? Again, same issue. Second of all, would a fee for renewal applications be justified? A renewal application is slightly more likely to get offlined. And when I say offlined, I mean it is the application is pulled to the side and put into a queue for a live human at the FCC to review. And that would be in the event of any kind of enforcement issues or any other reason that that they would be able, that they could hold a license up, or based on the answers on the 610 on the renewal. So these are the issues that we're having to deal with the license fees. To me, I feel like, again, I feel like applications that go through the VEC batch for new and upgrades should not have any fees. Anything that is optional should have a fee. Also, too, paper copies of licenses. The FCC did mention that in the NPRM. There is definitely justification that if you don't have a printer or don't have access to a printer and a computer, and you want the FCC to personally handprint that license and send it to you, yeah, there should be a fee. Oh, there should definitely be a fee, because that is kind of touched by human hands. So yeah, I would justify a fee in that case. Anyway, what's going to happen now is this is going to go to Federal Register. Federal Register will, once the Federal Register publishes it, the FCC will publish comment and reply comment dates. Those dates will be published in a public notice at the FCC. It'll show up on fcc.today on the day that it happens, and we can go from there. Let's touch a little on the broadcast side, because what they did on the broadcast side was they did a couple of a lot of the fees stayed about the same. They fluctuated some, and it all depended on what was going on. I mean, there was about a $500 reduction in new construction permits for AM stations. Like those ever really happen? There was also a significant reduction in the cost of a new FM construction permit for commercial. Now, I want to point out, we're only talking commercial. Non-commercial, no fees, even with Ray bombs. Non-commercial stations, including LPFM, do not have any fees associated with them. So yeah, we look at these costs. Cost of renewal goes up from $200 to $325 for a full service station, and let's see, from $70 to $175 for an FM translator renewal. Wow, these prices are going. Yeah, some of these prices are going up, but new construction permit costs go down. License to cover applications pretty much stay about where they're at. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on where you look. The charges associated with directional antennas, they skyrocket in the AM, but in the FM they actually go down. And that's for commercial full-service stations proposing a directional antenna. The cost of call signs are planning to go up from $110 to $170. So that's pretty much where that's at. Ownership reports go from $70 to $85 per station. Couple things I want to point out on the broadcast side is we're going to possibly see a new fee for the very first time, and I kind of have mixed feelings on this one, and that is currently on an FM translator. On a commercial FM translator, when you file the minor modification, so you want to move it to a different location, maybe a different channel minor mod, move to a different site with the contours overlapping, the FCC normally does not charge a fee for that minor mod application. They do charge when you are granted and you build it and you're ready to cover the license, they charge $170. The FCC, citing things, the changes in the industry, AM revitalization, Auction 83, Great Translator Invasion, the use of HD2 over FM translators. The FCC has decided that in order to properly implement the provisions of RABOMS, that they're going to need to start charging $210 for a minor modification on an FM translator. The LPFM community radio side of me totally agrees with this, because this might stop some of the speculation and make people think, do we really want to file this application? Because see, in the past, and I'm guilty of this, I am totally guilty of this, because what on a translator application, the idea is you file it, see how it works out. If somebody complains or the FCC says, no, you can't do that, the application gets dismissed, nothing is lost. Under this, you do something, the FCC still dismisses it, you're out $210. This might stop some of the speculative activity by FM translator applicants who are testing the waters by proposing a facility very close to an LPFM in hopes that the LPFM or somebody else doesn't speak out. And unfortunately, most of them get away with this. Now, of course, those who are really serious are going to still pay the $210. But still, they're going to be out something. So I guess maybe there's a little bit of gratification in that. What else? The other one that they're talking about has to do with filing the short form. That's the short form for the auction. Whenever there's a spectrum auction, FM broadcast or an AM broadcast auction, first you have to fill out this short form, and in the short form, you're telling the FCC, hey, we're interested in participating in the auction, and we're interested in participating in these areas, in these specific auctions. Now, what is not clear on this $575 cost-based fee that they're proposing is whether the auction, whether that is per auction facility. If you're bidding on 5 construction permits, is that going to be $575 times 5? Or is that just going to be $575 for the filing of the short form? So these are some of the things that still need to be worked out. But still, the fact that currently right now there is no fee. You could go in to an auction put down the minimum upfront cost on, as many as you can, and, as many of the construction permits that are available, as many as that you can afford at one time. And, if somebody outbids you, you go through the auction, you make your first bid, and if somebody outbids you and you pull out, then after the auction is over, you can ask for all that money back. All those upfront payments that you missed out on, you can ask for those back. Well, under this new thing, if there's, you're going to be out at least $575 for participating in the auction. I like that because that might take away some of the speculators. Those who are skimming the bottom of some of these auctions and hoping that nobody else drives it up. It also prevents shill bidding, which, the FCC doesn't like, but it does happen. So there we go. I mean, yeah, so we're going to REC is definitely going to be filing in this proceeding. And right now, we are in the broadcast side. We are definitely gearing towards in favor of the auction fee, as well as in support of the $210 for the new construction permit. Again, non-commercial educational LPFM. It's statutory. There's a statutory exemption for application fees. Amateur radio, there is no statutory exemption for application fees. There is for regulatory, but not for application. And I don't feel that they should be bundled up with the personal radio services. I believe they should be on their own. And I think the FCC should be doing what it can to encourage new applicants and upgrades while still subsidizing through optional premium services such as vanity call signs. That's kind of my position right now on these issues. Anyway, that's it for now. Take care, and sorry we haven't done one of these in quite a while. But hopefully we'll get back to doing them again someday soon. Until then, take care, everyone. Be safe. For those who are in the areas impacted right now, we got your back. If you need anything, please contact REC at 202-621-2355. If you have worked with REC before where you've paid for services and we have all your information on file, if you need to file a silent STA, we'll do it at no charge. All right, take care. If you need anything, let us know. We'll be around.